Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2010 horror sequel, Lost Boys: The Thirst. This, to me personally, is one of the most underrated and overlooked sequels out there. It's not on the same level as Predator 2 or RoboCop 2 or The Fly 2 when it comes to sequels. But if we're talking about direct-to-video sequels, this is incredibly underrated. This is fan service done the right way compared to fan service done the worst possible way imaginable in Lost Boys: The Tribe. I don't know why this didn't do as well on home video in terms of sales as The Tribe did. I also do not understand why this gets a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes or a 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb. I only liked this a little bit less than the first film. That's how much I legitimately enjoy Lost Boys 3. I think Lost Boys 3: The Thirst is a terrific film for what it is. It's a Frog Brothers movie. And if you're a fan of the Frog Brothers, you actually get them front and center in the movie and in their own story. And it's satisfying, it's entertaining, and I really am quite surprised by this film every time I see it by how good of a quality direct-to-video movie it is on multiple different fronts. I do not understand why this gets so many bad reviews. No, it's not going to be let's say, a big budget masterwork. It's not going to be a film that's going to feature amazing acting because it's starring Corey Feldman, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's well shot, it's well edited, it's got some legitimately good practical effects, as well as visual effects. It's got a decent enough score. The cover that's used in this of Cry Little Sister is actually pretty good compared to the cover in The Tribe. The writing is sound. In a lot of ways, it's like The Lost Boys meets Blade, and that's honestly really cool. That's a cool mix of two different franchises. So it's directed by Dario Piana, who directed The Deaths of Ian Stone before this, which is, I remember actually being an alright film too. But after this, he was done. He didn't do anything else because it wasn't well received, and I guess it just wasn't given another shot, which sucks because there are really god-awful, atrocious directors that are still getting work. But Dario Piana, who really did a honestly really good job directing this movie, nope, nothing. I mean, he did a great job directing the action sequences when they were there, sequences that needed to have a little bit more atmosphere to them. He added a lot of extra energy and flavor to numerous different scenes throughout the movie. I thought he did a really good job directing the film. There were multiple moments while I was watching this where it actually felt like it was a low budget theatrical kind of film. I've seen movies that have been released in theaters that have looked worse than Lost Boys: The Thirst in terms of the visuals, in terms of the direction. I mean, in comparison to The Tribe, it's no contest. The Tribe looks like it's shot with a fucking shitty camcorder at times. There's this really awful filter or something on the camera for most of the movie in that film that makes it look washed out. That's not the case with this movie. This is a guy who knows how to direct. He also did a good job with using different camera tricks and different camera techniques. I thought it was a really good job by Dario Piana. And I thought the script by Evan Charnoff and Hans Rodionov, which is funny because Hans Rodionov was involved with the screenplay for The Tribe. I wonder how much of this film's success is really due to him. Maybe I want to give it the success more to Evan Charnoff. But Yeah, this screenplay gets the franchise right. It understands the Lost Boys, the lore. It understands the characters of the Frog Brothers. It even has a really wonderful, heartfelt tribute to Sam, which plays out as a tribute from Corey and the filmmakers to Corey Haim, which is really cool, which is really nice to see. That's a very heartfelt notion and a heartfelt thing. And speaking of heart, this movie has a good amount of heart to it. I like the relationship and the bond that Corey has, Corey Feldman's character Edgar has with this new friend of his who turns into a love interest in Zoe, played by Casey B. Dolan. I thought they had a really good amount of chemistry. I thought they made a cute couple, and I honestly would have loved to have seen them go on more adventures. And spoiler, I really liked the twist that she was a werewolf. And that was setting things up for a fourth film in the series where the Frog Brothers would fight werewolves. And it fits because there's a line of the famous line of dialogue, we're awesome vampire hunters and monster bashers. Like, they actually say monster bashers. So they could easily fight werewolves, and that would take things into a new direction. No, nope, didn't get that. Instead, we're more than likely going to get a remake or some fucking shitty show on the CW where Corey Feldman will make like a cameo for a few minutes and then like die or some bullshit. I mean, really, that's probably the more likely scenario than ever getting another follow-up to The Thirst, which is a shame. This sequel gives you what you want when it comes to a Lost Boys sequel. You get the Frog Brothers. They are front and center. It is their film. And instead of Corey Feldman's character Edgar Frog being in the movie for like 10-15 minutes, like in The Tribe, he's in it for the majority of the running time. Jamison Newlander, he's not in it as much, but when he is there, he does a good job, and he still has that solid back and forth and not repertoire is not really the right word, but rapport. He still has that good rapport with Corey Feldman, and it was really nice to see Jamison Newlander. Although I have to be honest, him in this movie, he looks a lot like Spoonie. If you remember the YouTuber Spoonie, or just look him up, sadly he's completely lost it, and he's no longer what he once was. But Spoonie, he was a famous YouTuber at one point. Now not so much, but it really almost looks like they're related. But it's still, despite that little thing, it didn't bug me at all. I thought it was just kind of funny. But Jameson did fine. And, I like the whole plot where he's a vampire, and then this whole setup where he's in seclusion trying to find a cure, and he shows up in the climax and helps his brother. I like that. I thought it set it up for a pretty epic conclusion to the film. And I like a lot of stuff about the screenplay. I like that you don't have the new vampires being like some wannabe group of Lost Boys. It's a whole new different sort of thing. It's this DJ named DJ X, who is this centuries old vampire who has his own clan, and he's trying to get more vampires into the world, more vampires born into the world by this drug, which is just I think it might be just ecstasy mixed in with vampire blood, and it's causing a pandemic of vampires popping up after he has these raves across the globe. And now he's setting up a rave in the Frog Brothers' backyard. And initially, Corey Feldman's character, Edgar Frog, is not wanting to get involved with anything, doesn't really care because he's still really distraught and upset about the loss of Sam and the fact that his brother is a vampire. The whole thing with his brother Alan being a vampire is actually set up in the beginning of the film, which is like serves as a prequel, which is a bit of fun where Edgar and Alan are fighting vampires in Washington D.C. But Alan gets bit, and then he becomes a vampire, and then he's just in the shadows for a good chunk of the movie until the climax. And understandably, Edgar doesn't want to get involved with anything. But then there's this horror romance novelist, which is clearly a take and a rib on Stephenie Meyer, the author of Twilight, and she offers up this contract to go and get her brother from DJ X, who's kidnapped him. And I actually thought the twist here was actually pretty good and pretty interesting. I remember when I first saw this, I did not see it coming. I just feel that the casting was a bit off when it comes to this character. And I'll get into why later. But it was also really enjoyable to see Edgar just totally just shit on her and essentially roast Stephenie Meyer and her Twilight novels and be like, and just completely just destroy them. And it was hilarious. I thought the lines of dialogue there were some of the best Twilight roasts I've heard in a film. It was really funny. It was like, your books suck, and then it was just going into detail, vampires, aren't sexy. It was, this movie does not take itself seriously, and that's the right route to take things. With a Lost Boys direct-to-video sequel featuring the Frog Brothers. I mean, how can you take this super seriously? It does have its serious moments, like the really nice tribute to the memory of Corey Haim and a tribute to Sam Emerson, and the emotional moments with Edgar when he's down in the depths of depression and struggling with things. But then it's just a blast with some really fun, clever lines of dialogue, some really clever gadgets, UV lamps, water pistols, which is just like the Lost Boys, the Frog Brothers, but like souped up super soakers with holy water and garlic, and the grenade launcher with the holy water grenades, and just a lot of just really fun stuff, and fun lines of dialogue. This right here turns holy water into holy slaughter. It's just like how can you not get a kick out of that? Like, if you're a fan of the Frog Brothers, like it really does capture the spirit of those characters so well. I also felt the use of clips from the Lost Boys was handled really well in flashbacks and in the more emotional scenes that needed a little bit more depth and a little bit more power to them. And the new cast members, they hold their own fine too. Like I said, I like Casey B. Dolan. I thought the character of Zoe was well written, and I really liked the dynamic between her and Edgar. Gwen Lieber played her role well. She was sexy, she was hot, but she was also a bitch. And then you find out later, well, it's for a reason, and it works. Jamison Newlander, he was good in his little bit, the bit parts that he had as Alan. A part of me might have wanted to see him do a little bit more, but he was still all right. Seb Castang as DJ X, he was no Kiefer Sutherland, but he wasn't Angus Sutherland. Like, he was actually legitimately intimidating at times and had a presence, a physical presence to him. He actually was able to move around and do fight choreography, so I thought he was fine. The other vampires were okay too. None of them were like particularly spectacular, but they were decent enough. They had a certain look to them. I liked the fact that the vampires in this looked completely different than, you know, the Lost Boys from the first film. They didn't look like just generic surfer dudes or surfer bros. It was nice to see more female vampires in the flock too, like fully vamped out. That was fun. There was a really impressive sequence in this from a visual effects standpoint when a DJ X and his vampire clan, they jump out of a plane that's like thousands of feet in the air and then fall to the ground below, you know, through the sky and everything, and land in like a superhero pose. But the way that that shot was put together was really impressive for a low budget film. That was some of the best low budget green screen work I've seen from this particular time period. It was a really impressive looking shot. And then you had this legitimately good and honestly, I wouldn't say it's better than the original Cry Little Sister, but it's not that far below it in terms of overall quality. It was a really good cover and had a nice beat to it and a nice new kind of edge to the instrumental, and it worked really well with that scene. And you have a little bit of other bits of satire that are thrown in with the screenplay, like a satire on fake reality TV stars with this guy named Lars von Goetz, played by Steven Van Niekirk, and that was pretty fun too, especially seeing the back and forth between him and Ager. And you do have the whole twist at the end where you find out that the brother Peter is actually played by Felix Mosse, is actually the head vampire of them all. And it was like, okay, all right. I see where they're trying to play with expectations and so on and so forth, but the actor wasn't really that good. He didn't do that great of a job. He wasn't intimidating in the slightest. He was like a Draco Malfoy on crack, you know, with like a cracked out body. Like, he just had no weight to him. He looked like he was a twig. But despite that, it was a pretty badass finale. That despite the fact that the head vampire and the actor who's playing him wasn't really that intimidating, because DJ X was intimidating enough. There's a really fun fight with swords and staffs and alien technology, which is pretty cool. With Ager and Alan. A really great moment when Alan shows up to help his brother Ager and defeat DJ X. And then there was an equally crowd-pleasing moment in the finale when Ager is getting attacked by the head vampire, and the head vampire is actually controlling his brother Alan and having Alan beat up and try to kill Ager. And then Ager like knocks out like a hose that was above him and sprays the head vampire with all this water. And the head vampire is like, what? Like, what do you think this is gonna do? And then because Ager had essentially filled out a form online to become an ordained minister, and got, approved to be an ordained minister. He has the power to make holy water. So he just goes, Sanctus Spiritus Dominus, some, all this kind of, spiritual jargon, and then he's like, "Fuck you," and it's such a great crowd pleasing moment, just Sanctus Spiritus Infinitu, fuck you, and then Cry Little Sisters playing in the background, and the head vampire like burns up and then explodes. It's a great moment. It's a really cool, grand finale for the film. I also like the whole setup of the raves. I think that's different and unique, and really adds some nice visual pop to the film when it comes to the cinematography. And speaking of that, I thought really well shot by Stefano Morcaldo, and excellently edited by Tony Solomons as well. There's a lot of really great scenes when it comes to the editing where they're tightly cut in a way that is genuinely terrific. At times the humor is a bit lame and kind of not that good and not as funny as it could be, but most of the time the humor is legitimately fun, brings a smile to your face, has some pretty clever lines that I legitimately really liked. And for the score by Elia Kimmeral was a nice mix of electronic synth music that fit the whole rave feel and vibe that the film was going for. And when it comes to the visual effects, yeah, there's some CGI, and at times it looks a bit dodgy, but they tried to do as much practically as they could, and even the CGI doesn't look that bad, especially in comparison to a lot of other direct-to-video, low-budget films from this particular time period, or even now. And the practical effects, when they are there, really, I don't know if I would say impressive, but solid. Some solid work. I thought the sequences were shot better, so they actually had some more style to them, and they were kind of hidden a little bit in shadow, so they held up better. Also, the sequences were not sped up for some dumb reason like they were in The Tribe, so they didn't try to fast forward the camera to try to add some unnecessary extra effect to the scenes. And yeah, I really don't know what else to say about Lost Boys of Thirst, except I honestly really recommend this one. If you are a fan of the Lost Boys and you haven't seen this one, you've been avoiding it because of the critical reception, I recommend giving it at least one shot, because I think it might surprise you if you're a fan of the Lost Boys, because it's fan service done the right way. You get the Frog Brothers, you get them together, maybe not for the whole movie, but you get enough of that to give you that nostalgia rush, but it's done in a way where it doesn't feel like it's just the exact same shit and the exact same things that you already saw in the Lost Boys, but done way worse. That's not the case here. They take things in a different direction, and would have taken things into an even farther a different direction if they were allowed to do the sequel with werewolves, or do a TV show. Honestly, this plays out a lot like a high quality pilot for a Lost Boys TV series. You introduce your characters, you have this setup, and you got some familiar faces, but then you also have some new ones, and you have the gore, you have the stylish directing, you have Cry Little Sister, and the cover doesn't sound like shit, and you have a lot of passion behind the project, and the overall story, and the characters, and the franchise itself, and you end with a setup for more adventures of the Frog Brothers and Zoe. And it's like, I wish we had that show. I wish we had a show. It would have been nice to have seen a fourth film, but if we weren't going to get a fourth movie, a TV show. Like, the hell were Jamison Newlander and Corey Feldman and that other actress who played Zoe, like, they weren't going to be busy doing much. They easily could have done a show, at least had a season or two. But nope, never happened. And that's really a shame, because this cast got along really well. And there's a lot of potential for more adventures with this cast. And I mean, can you imagine like a Baywatch Nights kind of thing, like a Monster of the Week kind of show, but with Jamison Newlander and Corey Feldman, as the Frog Brothers? That'd be really cool. Maybe you could even have Jason Patrick make a cameo, or some of the other actors from the first movie. But nope, it just wasn't meant to be. But at least we got Lost Boys: The Thirst. At least we got this film, which is genuinely terrific for what it is. It is a legitimately good, if not great, direct-to-video movie. I know a lot of people probably disagree with me, but the more times that I see this film, the better and better it gets. And it even goes by at a super quick pace. It's only like an hour and 20-something minutes. It's not boring at all. It's got a really good pace to it. And honestly, I think the climax is a little bit better than even The Lost Boys. As a whole, it's not as good as the first film, but I don't think it's that far off, because it's got the right amount of heart to it. It's got, the not necessarily the creep factor, but it's got an edge. It's got enough of an edge to it, enough of a bite to it. It's got style, and you got Corey Feldman and Jamison Newlander, and they're teaming up again, and they're fighting vampires. I mean, what's not to like about it? I mean, this is what you want from a Lost Boys sequel. What we got in The Tribe was absolutely terrible. This is not even remotely close, even at its worst, to being as bad as that movie was. But that's just me personally. Anyway, I really don't know what else to say about it, except thanks for watching my review of Lost Boys: The Thirst. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.